For this project to control the Tesla climate through the APIs, I have a number of functions I'll run through with you all to explain how I set this up. So in the same way I did the charging, you can go back and look at the videos around that. The same way I did the charging, there's like a function to set another function to run the scheduled commands. It's just the way Google App Script works, and you can, like I said, you can go back and check out how some of those more detailed videos about how that works. But if you wanted to run at a very specific time, that's sort of what you're kind of left with. Otherwise, there are ways that you can set it up so that it'll do it within a certain 1 hour block, but then it's sort of it's hit or miss in terms of what time it'll start. And if you need to, if you're pretty consistent in your schedule, then you'll want to have it start probably at an exact time or near exact time versus an hour window. But if you're not that picky about that, and your schedule is more flexible, or you can afford to heat or cool much earlier than your departure time, then you may not have to do some of this. But you can see here, so this function runs every night around 10 or 11 p.m. usually when I'm home, and it'll decide whether it's going to set a trigger for the next morning to start the preconditioning, or the preheating, pre-cooling. And the first thing it does is see if the car's even at home, right? And this was a previous command I shared from the charging videos. But for me, if I'm not at home, chances are, if I'm at a hotel, I don't know, whatever reason I'm not home, but if I'm out of town, or I happen to be driving in a location where I need to stay over somewhere, I'll probably have a varied schedule. It won't be my normal schedule, so therefore I won't follow whatever's on the spreadsheet, and I'll just preheat or pre-cool it as I need it, or I won't do it at all. So this is really just for my routine. So if it's not home, it won't even bother setting it up. If it is, then it's going to get the start time and stop time, which was in the spreadsheet I showed earlier, for this vehicle, and there's specific cells for that, sort of picks it out. And then what it does is then it'll take those start and stop time set in the spreadsheet, which makes it easy because I can configure that up or down, or change that without changing code or going into a database. Then it'll put that start stop time, and then put tomorrow's date, the next morning's date, and this helps adjust it for any daylight savings. Actually, that was a fix I did. I didn't make a video about it, but when daylight savings happened, then the car started to charge it too early, and so by using this format, I was able to it'll just Google App Script will automatically adjust for the correct hour if it's daylight savings or not. And then, as you see here, once it's finished getting all the start times, if the trigger doesn't already exist, then it'll create one. And you can see here I put it in the same block as the Model X. The reason I had to put this, does the trigger exist, because through this try catch block, I noticed that when there's an issue with one of the cars, which happens sometimes, it'll rerun this block and it'll set up the trigger twice, so I had to do that. And also, when I had it set up in independent blocks, there were some odd, I couldn't quite debug, but there were some kind of odd errors that were happening once in a while, and I couldn't reproduce it, so it was just easier just to put it in one single function, and then I can put two try-catch blocks here, and it'll just rerun this particular block. And then you see here the Model X has the same pattern here, but it just reads different start and stop times if I wanted to vary that by the vehicle, and you can see here it sets that up as well.